His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thai Gaur Pamanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, Chapter number 24, titled Renunciation of Kardama Muni, text number 37. Esa Atma Pato Vyakto. Esa Atma Pato Vyakto. Nastakale Nabhuyasa. Nastakale Nabhuyasa. Tam Pravartayatum Deham. Tam Pravartayatum Deham. Imam Vidhi Mayabritam. Imam Vidhi Mayabritam. Esatma Pato Vyakto. Nastakalena Bhuyasa. Tam Pravartayatum Deham. Imam Vidhi Mayabritam. Esatma Pato Vyakto. Nastakalena Bhuyasa. Tam Pravartayatum Deham. Imam Vidhi Mayabritam. Satma Pato Vyakto. Nastakalena Bhuyasa. Tam Pravartayatum Deham. Imam Vidhi Mayabritam. Esatma Pato Vyakto. Word for word translation. Esa, this Atmapata, path of self-realization. Avyakta, difficult to be known. Nasta, lost. Kalena Bhuyasa, in the course of time. Tam, this. Pravartayatum, to introduce again. Deham, body. Imam, this. Vidhi, please know. Maya, by me. Britam, assumed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. This path of self-realization, which is difficult to understand, has now been lost in the course of time. Please know that I have assumed this body of Lord of Kapila to introduce and explain this philosophy to human society again. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksudamritam Yena Tasmei Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So we're continuing on from the third canto, chapter 24, titled Renunciation of Kadama Muni. So in this chapter we've seen initially Kadama Muni's prayers onto Lord Kapila. So we saw how Lord Kapila finally appears, and when he appears, then Kadama Muni, he goes to a secluded place and offers obeisances to Lord Kapila, who has now appeared as his son. And then after offering obeisances, he starts offering prayers of glorification at the lotus feet of Lord Kapila. Initially, Kadama Muni, he first offers his gratitude to the Supreme Personality Godhead for his causeless mercy. He explains to Lord Kapila that generally in this world we see that people, they worship the demigods for many, many thousands and thousands of years. And only after so many years of tapasya do the demigods become pleased with their worshippers, and only then do the demigods give some benediction or give some mercy. But Kadama Muni says, you, my dear Lord, you're so merciful. I've hardly done anything. And just in a short period of time, you're giving me darshan, and you're appearing as my son. You're so much more merciful than the demigods. And then next, Kadama Muni says that generally we see the yogis, they go to the forest and they do tapasya, they practice Ashtanga yoga. For how many years? Not just for many hundreds and thousands of years, but for many lifetimes. And only after doing severe yoga practice in the forest for many, many lifetimes, only then do they get to take darshan of your lotus feet. But on the other side, when it comes to me, you're so magnanimous, you're so kind, that in this very lifetime, although I'm not some great yogi or tapasvi, I'm just an ordinary householder, and although there are so many imperfections, in my practice of devotional service, still, ignoring all of my faults, you are giving me darshan in the very same lifetime. What generally takes, many hundreds of lifetimes to attain, I am getting in this very same lifetime. Who can be more merciful and kind than you, my dear Lord? Like this Kadama Muni, he offers beautiful prayers of glorification. Initially, he's offering gratitude at the lotus feet of Lord Kapila, explaining how the Supreme Lord, he's so kind and merciful upon his devotees. And Kadama Muni further explains that when you appear, my dear Lord, you appear, and one of the functions you do as an avatar is that you increase the glories of your devotees. So this is one of the things that Krishna does whenever he appears. Just like a father, because the father or the mother, they love their child so much, they always want to talk about their children. So when one pair of parents meet another family, they'll talk about their son or they talk about their daughter. That my son, he's studying this school, he's in the cricket team, he's doing very well. Or he just recently finished his HSC, the final exam for university, he scored this much. So parents, because they love their child so much, they naturally want to always talk about their children, what their children are doing, what they've been accomplishing. So when parents, they meet each other, they generally talk about the children, what each other's children are doing. So in the same way, the Supreme Lord, he's the Supreme Father, and he very much loves his devotees. So Lord Kadama Muni, he explains that that's why, because the Supreme Lord loves his devotees so much, whenever the Supreme Lord appears, one of the functions the Supreme Lord does is that he'll act in such a way to increase the glories of his devotees. He will do something, say something, enact some pastime in which his devotees will be glorified. Classical example Prabhupada gives is that of Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev, he is one of the 12 Mahajans, the 12 authorities in bhakti or devotional service. And naturally he is very dear to Lord Krishna. And Krishna, to glorify his devotee, Bhishma Dev, he enacts the pastime of Maharaj Yudhishthira being bewildered at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. So just like before the battle in Kurukshetra started, Arjuna was bewildered. Arjuna is a pure devotee, but For the sake of pastime, for the sake that Bhagavad Gita can be spoken for our benefit, Krishna, using his Yogamaya potency, Krishna covers over Arjuna's intelligence, so Arjuna gets bewildered before the battle of Kurukshetra. So Krishna could speak Bhagavad Gita. So that was before the battle started. After the battle finished, Krishna again does the same thing. This time not to Arjuna, but this time to Maharaj Yudhishthira. So before the battle, Krishna he bewilders Arjuna, so Gita could be spoken. And after the battle was finished, this time Krishna he bewilders Maharaj Yudhishthira. So again Maharaj Yudhishthira, he's a pure eternal associate of the Lord. How can he ever get overcome by ignorance? But Krishna, to glorify Bhishma Dev as a great exalted devotee of the Lord, Krishna he puts Maharaj Yudhishthira into illusion after the battle of Kurukshetra is finished. So after the battle is finished, Maharaj Yudhishthira he starts lamenting that because of me so many millions and millions of people died. I am a sinner. I've got so much bad karma. How will I repent? For all these sins I've committed. I am worthless person. Like this, Maharaj Yudhishthira starts lamenting. And then Veda Vyasa comes to pacify him, but he's unable. Even Narad Muni, he comes to pacify Maharaj Yudhishthira. Even he is unable to pacify. Like this, so many great sages, like Sukadev Goswami, Vyasadeva, Narad Muni himself, and then finally, even Krishna, he himself, couldn't pacify Maharaj Yudhishthira. Krishna is the Supreme Personal Godhead, is the personification of religion. He's trying to pacify Maharaj Yudhishthira, but still, Maharaj Yudhishthira is unable to be pacified. Then finally, Bhishma Dev comes, and Bhishma Dev is able to pacify Maharaj Yudhishthira. So in this way, through this pastime, Krishna, he glorifies Bhishma Dev. Just see how great this devotee of mine is. What even Narad Muni couldn't do, what even Sukadev Goswami couldn't do, what even Veda Vyas couldn't do, and what even I couldn't do, this great devotee of mine is able to do. So in this way, Krishna, he glorifies the position of Bhishma Dev. So like this, if we see through all the different pastimes in Bhagavatam, other Shastras, we will see that Krishna, he'll always be performing different pastimes and leelas, in which he'll always try and glorify the position of his devotees. Just like in the battle, another person Krishna glorifies is Arjuna. Krishna gives the whole credit of the victory to Arjuna, that it was Arjuna only who killed all the soldiers. But actually it was Krishna from behind who was empowering Arjuna to kill so many great warriors and soldiers. But externally, Krishna is giving all the credit to Arjuna. So this is the nature of the Supreme Lord. He always wants to, just like devotees, they always want to put Krishna in the forward. They always want to glorify Krishna. They always want all the worship to come to Krishna. In the same way, Krishna from his side, he reciprocates by always enacting pastimes in which the glories of his devotees come out. So this was one of the prayers that Lord Kadama Muni, he offered at the lotus feet Lord Kapila Dev. Like this, he offers a series of beautiful prayers. And then finally, in the last verse of his prayers, Kadama Muni tells Lord Kapila Dev that, okay, thank you for appearing, thank you for coming. Now, please give me your permission so I can take sannyas and leave home and go and travel. So, like this, he offers a final request at the lotus feet of Lord Kapila Dev. Now, this last prayer by Kadama Muni is very interesting, because now the Supreme Personal Godhead himself has appeared as his son. So one would expect he will stay at home and, take care of his son, who is Supreme Personal Godhead himself, get his personal association, render service unto him, enjoy wonderful pastimes with the Supreme Lord who has appeared as his son. But no, Kadama Muni, he asks Lord Kapila, give me permission so I can take sannyas and leave the house and go away. So why is this? So two reasons are given. Reason number one, according to Varnashram, when someone reaches the age of 50, then they're supposed to enter the next ashram. From Grahastha ashram, they're supposed to go into Vanaprastha ashram, and they're supposed to take up full-time devotional service. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, regarding how we can apply Vanaprastha ashram in our current ISKCON, he explains that previously If we study the Shastras like Bhagavatam, strictly speaking, when one takes Vanaprastha, they're supposed to give up their family, they're supposed to give up their whole family life, and they're supposed to go to the forest, to do tapasya in the forest. And in the 11th canto, Krishna, in Uddhava Gita, he very elaborately describes all the duties of a person who is in Vanaprastha ashram. And it's very, very austere life. He's not supposed to cut his nails, not supposed to cut his hair. He's supposed to, just survive just on fruits and roots. Very, very severe austerities the Vanaprastha is supposed to do in the forest. So, which is practically impossible for most of us. So, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he explains, for us, we can take it, Vanaprastha ashram means, previously in Grihastha ashram, we're doing part-time devotional service, which means during the week we're engaged in, doing a job or working, getting some money to sustain ourselves and our family. And then, sometime during the week, we come to the temple and we do some direct devotional service. So Radhanath Maharaj explains, Vanaprastha ashram, for us, it means that from going from a point from when we're doing some direct service and some indirect service, Vanaprastha ashram, when we enter, we should do full-time direct devotional service. So that is Vanaprastha ashram, Radhanath Maharaj explains for us. So Radhanath Maharaj explains, every devotee, they should plan their life in such a way that sometime in the future they can come to that stage. Sometime in the future they can come to a point where they don't have to work anymore. They have saved enough money to sustain themselves and their family. And then from only doing part-time direct devotional service, they can come to a point when, throughout the whole day, throughout the whole week, they can fully do direct devotional service for Krishna. And they don't have to go to the forest, or they don't have to go to the Himalayas, this or that. They don't have to practice austerities. They can still be in their house. They can still be with their family, with their wife, children. But instead of just doing direct devotional service once or twice a week in the temple, they should come to a point where throughout the whole week they can only engage in direct devotional service. So like this, Radhanath Maharaj explains, this is practical Vanaprastha ashram for us in ISKCON in the present day and age. And for all of us, we can plan a life in such a way that sometime in the future we can come to a stage where we don't have to work anymore and we can fully engage in direct devotional service. And we can still be in our house, we can still be, with our family, so on and so forth, but we can fully engage, dedicate our 24 hours a day to direct devotional service. So that is the first reason Srila Prabhupada explains, that Kadamba Muni, he wanted to strictly follow the Varnashrama system, wherein the man is supposed to take Vanaprastha or take sannyas, after his material duties are finished. So Kadamba Muni, he wanted to set an ideal example for others, and he himself wanted to strictly follow all the rules and regulations of Vanaprastha, of Varnashrama Dharma. So therefore, even though Supreme Lord has appeared as his son, he is still taking sannyas and leaving the house and going away. Second reason, more deeper reason, the Acharyas explain, is that Kadamba Muni, his rasa or his mood in which he worships the Supreme Lord is that of dasya. Since his very birth, Kadamba Muni has been worshipping the Supreme Lord as his eternal master. So as we all know from Nectar of Devotion or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that there is 5 different moods or rasas in which we can associate or serve the Supreme Lord. One is that of neutrality, second, servitude or dasya. Then we have fraternal affection or associating with Krishna as a friend. And then we have parental affection or associating with Krishna with the mood of being Krishna's parents. Then finally, conjugal, which is Madhurya Rasa, associating with Krishna as one of Krishna's intimate associates. So like this, there's 5 different rasas we can associate with the Supreme Lord. So just like Hanuman, he is in Dasya Ras. And that is the mood in which he worships the Supreme Lord, Lord Ramachandra, eternally. If you try and get Hanuman to act as Lord Ram's friend or parent, it's just not possible. Hanuman, he is fully fixed in serving Lord Ramachandra as his servant. And that is his eternal bhava, or that is his eternal mood in which he is serving the Supreme Lord. So in the same way, Kadama Muni, his situation is just like that of Hanuman. Just like Hanuman, he is fully fixed as Lord Ramachandra's servant. In the same way, Kadama Muni, since his birth, he is there as, he is serving the Supreme Lord in Dasya Bhav. He is serving the Supreme Lord as Supreme Lord is my master, I am his servant, I need to render service unto him. But now that same master of his has appeared as his son. And now if he wants to associate with Lord Kapila Dev, there'll be the mixing of rasas, because now that Lord Kapila Dev is his son, then if he wants to associate with him, he has to have parental affection for Lord Kapila Dev, which is not possible for Kadama Muni, because his mood in which he wants to serve the Supreme Lord is that of servitude or dasya. So he is looking on the Supreme Lord with awe and reverence. He is the Lord, he is my master, I need to render service. So if that same Lord is appearing as his son, it's, what's it called? It's incompatible rasas. It's, he will affect his mood in which he wants to render service unto Lord Kapila Dev. So that's why he leaves home and then he goes to the forest. Because for him it's not possible to relate with the Supreme Lord as if the Supreme Lord were his son. Because his mood is different. So that's why he immediately, as soon as Lord Kapila Dev appears, he just offers praise and then just immediately leaves the home and just goes to the forest. So these are two reasons given why Kadama Muni, he leaves home immediately, even though the Supreme Lord has appeared in his house. Okay, we'll go through the purport. It is not true that Sankhya philosophy is a new system of philosophy introduced by Kapila, as material philosophers introduce new kinds of mental speculative thought to supersede that of another philosopher. On the material platform, everyone, especially the mental speculator, tries to be more prominent than others. The field of activity of the speculators is the mind. There is no limit to the different ways in which one can agitate the mind. The mind can be unlimitedly agitated, and thus one can put forward an unlimited number of theories. Sankhya philosophy is not like that. It is not mental speculation. It is factual, but at the time of Lord Kapila, it was lost. So after Kadama Muni, he finishes his prayers, then the Supreme Lord, Lord Kapila Dev, he starts speaking in response to Kadama Muni. And one of the things he is saying in today's verse, he is explaining to his devotee Kadama Muni about the reason of his appearance. So he's explaining to Kadama Muni that the reason I have appeared is to re-establish the philosophy of Sankhya. So Lord Kapila Dev, he explains that this philosophy has been there present, since time immemorial, but over the course of time, this knowledge seemingly has been lost or forgotten. So therefore, to re-establish this philosophy of Sankhya, I have appeared as Lord Kapila Dev. So like this, Lord Kapila Dev, he's explaining to Kadama Muni. So it's a very similar verse. A similar verse we'll find in Bhagavad Gita. If you remember, 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says a similar thing to Arjuna. Yamam vivasvate yogam, proktavanaham abhijam, vivasvan manave prar, manu rikshak ve bharat. Evam parampram praptim, evam rajasya vidu, sakalena he mahata, yoga nasta parantapa. So Krishna, he explains to Arjuna that this science, or this transcendental knowledge which I am speaking to you now, was spoken by the sun god to his son Manu. And Manu in turn spoke to his son Ikshvaku. So like this, Krishna explains that this transcendental knowledge has been coming down through a chain of disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam. Through a chain of disciplic succession, this philosophy which I am speaking has been coming down from one king to another king. But Krishna says, yoga nasta parantapa, that this yoga, over the course of time, has been lost. And to re-establish this transcendental knowledge, to re-establish this spiritual wisdom, I have now appeared and I am now speaking the same knowledge to you again. So just like in the Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna that, this transcendental wisdom has been lost over time, so therefore I'm coming and speaking. Same thing Lord Kapila Dev is saying to Kadama Muni, that this Sankhya philosophy, it's been there present for so many millions of years, but over the course of time, it has been apparently forgotten or lost. Therefore, to re-establish these principles, I have again appeared. So there's another famous verse again in 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna explains to Arjuna the reasons for why Krishna, he descends into this material world. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashyaya duskritam dharma samstapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Krishna says there's 3 reasons for why I descend, or 3 things I do when I appear. So paritranaya sadhunam, to deliver my devotees. Vinasaya duskritam, to annihilate the miscreants, and dharma samstapanataya, to re-establish the principles of religion. These are 3 things I do whenever I appear. So that's what Lord Kapila Dev is explaining to Kadma Muni, that I am appearing to re-establish the principles of Sankhya Yoga. And Sankhya Yoga is, the Sankhya Yoga which Lord Kapila Dev is explaining in Bhagavatam is the same as Bhakti Yoga. When we study Lord Kapila Dev's instructions, is the same as pure devotional service. Okay, we'll continue on the purport. In due course of time, a particular type of knowledge may be lost or may be covered for the time being. That is the nature of this material world. A similar statement was made by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Sakala neha mahata yoga nasta. So we're just quoting this verse from 4th chapter. In course of time, the yoga system, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, was lost. It was coming in parampara, in disciplic succession. But due to the passage of time, it was lost. The time factor is so pressing that in the course of time, everything within this material world is spoiled or lost. The yoga system of Bhagavad Gita was lost before the meeting of Krishna and Arjuna. So it's amazing, so Prabhupada is explaining the power of time. Prabhupada is saying that it is the nature of time, that time, it destroys everything. So we might think that time will only destroy everything that is material. So then how is it that time is even destroying spiritual wisdom or transcendental knowledge? Isn't the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of Sankhya, isn't this spiritual? So how is it that time is, slowly over the period of time, even destroying the spiritual wisdom also? So Prabhupada is explaining this is the nature of this material world, that even spiritual principles, wisdom, knowledge, even that slowly over the course of time starts getting lost. How so? We can take it as the desire of Krishna. It gives Krishna an opportunity to come down and re-establish these philosophy, because Krishna himself is the time factor. Time is non-different from Krishna. So Prabhupada is saying even spiritual wisdom over the course of time slowly starts reducing and going away. That's why Krishna has to repeatedly keep coming down in different avatars to re-establish the principal religion. That's why Prabhupada says that one of the main principles of this material world, like there are Shastric verses which explain that spiritual world is light and material world is like darkness. So like this, Prabhupada would quote one verse from the Vedas which explains like this, that this material world is darkness and spiritual world is light. Darkness means, everything is dark. And another meaning of darkness is forgetfulness or ignorance. So darkness signifies ignorance. How everyone in this material world, they're overcome by ignorance or forgetfulness. So this is one of the symptoms of being in this material world, that we're bound to forget. Therefore, Prabhupada explains that daily we need to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Daily we need to read Bhagavatam and hear lectures. Nityam Bhagavata Seva. Why does Bhagavatam say every day we have to do? Because of forgetfulness. This is the nature of the material world. Just like the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was slowly lost over the period of time, in the same way, whatever knowledge we've gathered over 5 years of practice, or 10 years of practice, or 20 years of practice, will slowly, by the course of time, start going away. If we don't daily keep putting more and more spiritual input into our consciousness. So therefore, every day, we have to keep on putting more and more spiritual input. Because it's the nature of this material world that we're bound to forget. Some sloka we memorized, in Bhakti Shastri 2 years ago. If we don't revise that sloka, In half a year, we would have forgotten that sloka. In the same way, some things we studied in Gita or Bhagavatam, which we are practicing, if we don't keep revising or keep applying in our life, after some time, we'll forget. So therefore, Prabhupada says that every day we need to put in more and more spiritual input. Every day we need to hear Bhagavatam, study these books, and even with sloka memorization. Certain slokas we memorize, we have to keep on revising. If we don't revise the slokas we memorize, again, by the influence of time, by the power of time, we'll forget. We might have memorized 50 slokas or 100 slokas, but if we don't revise them, after 1-2 years, most of those 100 slokas we memorize, we won't be able to recollect. We won't be able to recite it out loud. Why? Because of the influence of time. So this is the nature of this mature world. That the mature world is designed in such a way that we're bound to forget things. Therefore, we have to keep on hearing again and again and again and again and again. Repeatedly, day in and day out, we have to again and again hear and hear. Then by repeated hearing, things will start to click. Then still, things will start to go deep within our hearts. Then we'll start living the philosophy. We'll start living what we're reading and hearing. So the time factor is so pressing that in the course of time, everything within this mature world is spoiled or lost. The yoga system of Bhagavad Gita was lost before the meeting of Krishna and Arjuna. Therefore, Krishna again enunciated the same ancient yoga system to Arjuna, who could actually understand Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, Kapila also said that the system of Sankhya philosophy was not exactly being introduced by him. It was already current, but in course of time it was mysteriously lost, and therefore he appeared to reintroduce it. That is the purpose of the incarnation of Godhead. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Dharma means the real occupation of the living entity. When there is a discrepancy in the eternal occupation of the living entity, the Lord comes and introduces the real occupation of life. Any so-called religious system that is not in the line of devotional service is called adharma samstapana. When people forget their eternal relationship with God and engage in something other than devotional service, their engagement is called irreligion. How one can get out of the miserable condition of mature life is stated in Sankhya philosophy, and the Lord himself is explaining this sublime system. So according to the verse that Prabhupada is quoting here, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavata bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shijimiham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious principles and there is a rise of irreligion, at that time I descend. So especially in this Kali Yuga, we're seeing that happening so much. So much religion is prominent, and the principles of religion are slowly, or not even slowly, very quickly, going away. So then Krishna is supposed to naturally descend in this Kali Yuga to save all the fallen souls. So how does Krishna descend in Kali Yuga? So it's given that many different ways Krishna descends in Kali Yuga. One is that obviously as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates, they appeared 500 years ago to again re-establish the principles of religion, to annihilate the demons, and to deliver the pious. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if we study his life, we'll see that he also does the same three things. He delivers the devotees, he annihilates the miscreants. How does he annihilate the miscreants? Lord Nityananda Prabhu, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took out his Sudarshan Chakra to kill Jagai and Madai. At that time, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he appeals to Mahaprabhu that, my dear Lord, in this Kali Yuga, there are unlimited demons. In this Kali Yuga, there is one small demon in everyone's heart. So if you're going to kill this Jagai and Madai with your Sudarshan Chakra, then you have to kill every single person on this planet. You have to kill every single person which is present in this planet. Because every single person in Kali Yuga, in their hearts, there's at least a small demon sitting inside. So if you're going to kill Jagai and Madai, you have to kill everyone else in the world also, which is not possible, my dear Lord. So therefore, instead of killing them, you rectify them. You kill the demon within their hearts. This is your purpose as this avatar, as Mahaprabhu. So then Mahaprabhu, he retracts his Sudarshan Chakra, and it's given that Mahaprabhu, he delivers Jagai and Madai. He embraces Jagai and Madai, and it's given that when Mahaprabhu is embracing Jagai and Madai and forgiving them, at that time Mahaprabhu's body becomes black. So Mahaprabhu, one of his names is Gaura Hari. Gaura means, or Gaura Sundar. Gaura means golden. So Mahaprabhu is golden in color. Golden Sundar means that supremely beautiful golden Lord. Gaura Hari means that golden Lord who is always chanting the name of Lord Hari. Hari also means lion. So that golden like lion. So like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is golden in complexion. He has taken on the complexion of Srimati Radharani. So when Mahaprabhu is embracing Jagai and Madai, at that time his complexion, it goes from golden to black. And everyone is astonished. And at that time Mahaprabhu says, I have taken away all the sins, of Jagai and Madai. Because Lord Nityananda Prabhu desired, I have delivered these two rascals. I have forgiven them because they have promised from now on they won't do any more sinful acts. And Mahaprabhu at that time he says that all of these sins which I have taken and absorbed into my body, which you can see, in how the complexion of my body has changed to black. In the future, anyone who offends Vaishnavas, all of these sins which I have taken will go on to that person. So like this, Mahaprabhu, he makes this statement. It's there in, I think, Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's there. So all those sins that Mahaprabhu took, Mahaprabhu says, he will put those sins on that person who offends or blasphemes or does some kind of aparadh to Vaishnavas. So therefore we have to be very careful with our dealings with other devotees. Otherwise all those sins will come upon us. That's why generally we see if one particular person is repeatedly offending Vaishnavas, we'll see that slowly, they will start drifting away from devotional service, and slowly, they'll start engaging in a lot of other sinful activities. And like that, slowly, one day they will just break and fall down because of that, curse of Mahaprabhu. So like this, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he explains to Mahaprabhu that in this day and age, there's a demon in everyone's heart. So you can't kill everyone. So rather you have to rectify the consciousness by preaching devotional service. So that is how Mahaprabhu, he annihilates the miscreants. By preaching Krishna consciousness, he is killing the demons in all living entities' hearts. And he's re-establishing the principles of religion. And there's one beautiful verse composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksastakam Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradari Kripam Buddhi Yastam Aham Prapajye. So this verse was composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. This and another verse he composes. And one day what he does, he composes these two verses, glorifying Mahaprabhu, and he writes this down on a piece of paper, and then he sends it to Mahaprabhu for Mahaprabhu's pleasure, that I have composed these two verses in glorification of you, and he gives this to Mahaprabhu. Or he sends it with Mahaprabhu's devotees to be given to Mahaprabhu. So these verses, they're glorifying Mahaprabhu. How Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksastakam Purusha Purana. So in this verse, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is saying that you are Krishna himself and you have descended to teach Vairagya, to teach renunciation, Vidya, to give real spiritual wisdom, just like Lord Kapila is appearing to give Sankhya philosophy in the same way. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is saying you have appeared to give real Vidya, real wisdom. And thirdly, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. You have come to teach people how to do bhakti to yourself. Nija Bhakti Yoga. You are Krishna himself and you are teaching everyone else how to worship you properly. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by taking the role of a devotee, you are teaching everyone how to worship Krishna or how to worship yourself. So that is Dharma Samstha Panataya, establishing the principles of religion. So like this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he writes this beautiful verse, glorifying the position of Mahaprabhu. Now Mahaprabhu, naturally, whenever anyone glorifies him, as the Supreme Personality Godhead, Mahaprabhu, he just covers his ears and he starts shouting, Vishnu, Vishnu, don't speak such blasphemy, How can the Jiva be the Supreme Lord? Don't say like this. And Mahaprabhu will run away from that place. So when Mahaprabhu, he sees this piece of paper with these 2 verses written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, what is Mahaprabhu's reaction? Okay, internally he is pleased, with his devotee's glorification of himself. But externally, Mahaprabhu, he takes that piece of paper immediately, rips it into pieces and throws it away. So no one else can read it. But the devotees of Mahaprabhu, they, understanding the mood of the Lord, they knew what Mahaprabhu would do. Well, as soon as he got the piece of paper, the devotees, they knew that Mahaprabhu would immediately, tear up this piece of paper and just throw it. So before they gave this piece of paper to Mahaprabhu, what devotees they did is they copied this verse, these 2 verses, not into their notebook, but they wrote it on a wall. There was like a wall. And one of the associates, or close associates of Mahaprabhu, those 2 verses which Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had composed, they liked those 2 verses so much, they copied those 2 verses, scribed it on a wall for all the other devotees to see. So then later, even though Mahaprabhu had ripped up that piece of paper, all the other devotees, they could still read those 2 verses, nice and big, in big font, written on the wall, just like we have, Bhagavatam verses written nicely on the board so everyone can see. In the same way, one of the devotees of Mahaprabhu had scribed these 2 verses on the wall. Then all the other devotees, they came and they saw these 2 verses. Not only did they see and read these 2 verses, but it's mentioned all the associates of Mahaprabhu, they all memorized those 2 verses composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Those 2 verses were such beautiful glorification of Supreme Lord that it's mentioned all the associates of Mahaprabhu, they immediately memorized those 2 verses of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And it's given that just like we always wear kanti mala, right? We always wear tulsi mala around our neck at all times. In the same way it's given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that all the devotees of Mahaprabhu, just like they always wear tulsi mala around the neck, in the same way, at all times, places and circumstances, they always kept these 2 verses within their hearts, or kept these 2 verses around their neck as a beautiful pearl necklace, which means they were always meditating on these 2 verses. Or internally, they're always reciting these 2 verses. They never forgot these 2 verses. So these 2 verses are very nice verses to memorize. As Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, all the associates of Mahaprabhu, they memorized these 2 verses, and they used to always wear it around their neck like a tulsi mala, or wear it around their neck as a beautiful, precious pearl necklace. So the first verse starts like Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, 6 Sastragameka Purusha Purana, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharidhari Kripam Buddhi Yastam Aham Prapadye. Then the second verse composed Kalan Nastam Bhakti Yogam Nijam Yaha Pradus Kartam Krishna Chaitanya Nama Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharidhari Gadam Gadam Liyatam Chitta Bringa. So the second verse composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explains that he's praying that may the swan of my mind, enter into the lotus-like feet of the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Krishna himself. And why has he appeared? Because the principles of Bhakti Yoga over the course of time were lost, and to re-establish the principles of religion, or to re-establish the principles of devotional service, he has appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So same way, just like Lord Kapila Dev, he comes to re-establish Sankhya philosophy, which was lost over the course of time. Just like Krishna, he appears to re-establish the knowledge of Gita, which was lost over the course of time. The same way, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in the second verse he says, to re-establish pure devotional service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he descends in Kali Yuga. He descended 500 years ago. So like this, we see Mahaprabhu establishing principles religion. Then there is other verses which explains, glorifies the holy name. Kali Kalare Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. That in Kali Yuga, Krishna descends as the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the holy name is another avatar of the Lord, which has descended in Kali Yuga. So again, what is the avatar supposed to do? He's supposed to deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants, and re-establish the principles of religion. So the same 3 things the holy name also does. The holy name delivers all the devotees. Whenever devotees are in difficulty, we chant Hare Krishna. We take shelter of Nama Prabhu. And Nama Prabhu helps us get out of all difficulties. Then annihilating the miscreants. So we all have small miscreants in our hearts, small Ravanas, Hiranyakashipus in our hearts. When we chant Hare Krishna, Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. All these demons which are present in our hearts, they'll all be annihilated through the power of Nama Prabhu. Then establishing the principles of religion. So it is said, again in the first verse of Sixthastakam, we sing that the holy name of the Lord is the life of transcendental knowledge. That's there in the translation of the first verse of Sixthastakam. Which means, the holy name is the life of transcendental knowledge means that from the holy name only, spiritual wisdom or real knowledge is coming. Which means if a particular devotee is chanting Hare Krishna nicely or attentively, then he'll be able to understand all the conclusions of the Shastras. They'll automatically be revealed within his heart. Otherwise, if we're not chanting our rounds nicely, externally we might be reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, but the philosophy we're reading and hearing in class won't go so deep inside. It will just stay theoretical knowledge. We won't be able to get Vijnana. We'll only be getting jnana, but we won't get the realization. So that realization will come when we start chanting our rounds attentively. So that's explained by Mahaprabhu in the first verse of Sixthastakam. That the holy name is the very life of transcendental knowledge. Which means if we're taking good shelter of the holy name, then the holy name will help us get realization. When we study the Shastra, the holy name will reveal all the conclusions of the Shastras. So we see Nama Prabhu, or the holy name, also doing these three things. Then we have Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is also given as another avatar of Krishna, which has descended in Kali Yuga to deliver the miscreants. Krishna Sodama Bhagavate Dharma Jnana Dibisaha Kalo Nasta Drusamesa Puranako Dunodita. So after Krishna, he left this earth at the end of Dwapara Yuga, it is given. Then Krishna, he appears as Srimad Bhagavatam in Kali Yuga to dissipate the darkness which has covered the eyes of all the inhabitants of Kali Yuga. So Srimad Bhagavatam is another avatar of Krishna which we have to take shelter of. So Bhagavatam also, we can see Bhagavatam also does the same three things. Bhagavatam delivers the devotees, annihilates the miscreants, right? Nasta Prayasu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. By daily reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, all bad things which are in the heart gets dissipated. And Bhagavatam reestablishes the principles of religion. I was hearing Prabhupada, he was explaining how when we get initiated, we're actually taking a second birth. So it's given in according to Shastra that every living being is supposed, or every human being is supposed to have two births. If someone doesn't have two births, then they're considered to be no better than an animal. So the first birth we take is from our parents, biological parents. So just like we have a biological mother and father, animals also have a biological mother and father. So there's no difference, or there's no great glory from having, mature parents. And Prabhupada says a human being becomes a human being only after he takes initiation. Otherwise, what's the difference, right? Animals also have mature parents, we also have mature parents. But when one takes second birth by taking initiation from a spiritual master, okay, then he's considered a human being. So that is the duty of all human beings, to practice self-realization. Otherwise, if we don't take to the path of self-realization, then what's the difference between us and the animals? So in the second birth, we take during the time of initiation, Prabhupada says that the Guru is, the spiritual master is our father. And who is the mother? The mother is Shastra. So that is our second birth. So during initiation, we get a second birth from our mother, which is the Shastras, and from our father, which is the Guru or the spiritual master. So the spiritual master is supposed to be like our real father. And the Shastras, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're supposed to be like our mother. So what is the duty of a mother, or what do people go to the mother? Generally, for a child, whenever And the child will always reveal his heart to his mother, right? Usually the child is very close to the mother. And whenever any difficulty comes, the child will go running towards the mother, asking for protection or asking for help. Just like one story I was reading about Lord Jagannath. This is Lord Jagannath in Rajpur. So this is in Mayapur, in Simantudweep. So very close to our temple in Mayapur. So we have the Rajpur Jagannath deities, and they're said to be non-different from the Jagannath deities in Jagannath Puri. So there's one nice pastime. It's given that one time there's one small book written by, I think, Pankaj Jangri Prabhu and Jananivas Prabhu about the pastime of these beautiful deities in Rajpur. So one time what happened, one family, they recently moved very close to this temple of Lord Jagannath in Rajpur. And this family had one small young boy. And they used to live very close to the temple. So one day, the mother, she's at house, and she sees her son running back home, crying in complete distress. Uncontrollably just crying. His face is fully red. And his mother is wondering, what has happened, to my son? Something really bad must have happened to him. And his mother is asking the child, what happened? What happened? Tell me, explain to me. What has happened? Why are you crying so much? Why are you so upset? Did a thief come? Did someone do something bad to you? Did someone chastise you? Did someone hit you? Tell. And this kid was just crying. He was just, in complete distress. And then finally the son, he calmed down. Then he started revealing what had happened. He told his mother that, you don't know, today I was going to the temple of Lord Jagannath. And I went into the temple. I was taking darshan of Lord Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadramani. And I was taking darshan of them, and I saw Mother Subhadra. She had a very nice, piece of jewelry around her neck. And I really liked, the look of that jewelry that Mother Subhadra, she was wearing around her neck. So I thought I will, take it. So I went up to the altar to take that, jewelry from Mother Subhadra. And just as I was getting close to her, Lord Baladev, with his right hand, he gave me a big slap on my face. And it was so painful, that's why I was crying, and that's why I came running to you. So like this, there's so many beautiful pastimes of these deities of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadramani in Rajpur. So just like little kids, whenever anything happens in life, they come running to their mother. Mother, please help me, this happened, that happened. In the same way, according to Shastra, when we take initiation, Shastra is considered to be our mother, and Guru is considered to be a father. So just like little kids, when they go running to their mother, whenever anything happens in their life, in the same way, according to Shastra, we're supposed to come running to Srimad Bhagavatam, or Bhagavad Gita, or Chaitanya Charitamrita. Whenever any difficulty comes upon our life, any problem, any difficulty comes, we just open Bhagavatam and read. And Bhagavatam will help us. Bhagavatam will give us the solution. Just like this little kid, he was in distress, he's coming to his mother, oh, this has happened. He's revealing his mind, and his mother is coming down, helping him. In the same way, Bhagavatam is like a mother. Whenever any problem comes, we can take shelter of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam will pacify our hearts. Bhagavatam will help us. Bhagavatam will give us the solution. I'll finish with this point. Prabhupada, he writes in first canto that when we take shelter of Shastra, two things happen. Number one, Prabhupada explains, when we read Shastra or take shelter of Shastra, what happens is we get solace from whatever difficulties or anxieties or distresses we're going through life. And Prabhupada gives Arjuna as an example of that. Arjuna, at the start of the battle, he was in deep anxiety, distress. He was in depression, His whole body was shivering. He was crying. His bow was shivering. So he was having a mental breakdown. But he took shelter of the wisdom that Krishna was giving him. And by taking shelter of that, he was able to find solace in his heart. And after the battle was finished, later on when Krishna disappeared from this world, at that time, Arjuna again was bewildered. And he was feeling so much pangs of separation from Krishna. Throughout his whole life, he had so closely associated with Krishna, and now Krishna has disappeared and gone back to the spiritual world. So Arjuna was feeling so much separation from Krishna. And how did he pacify his heart? It's given in first canto Bhagavatam. Arjuna, he remembered whatever Krishna taught him in Bhagavad Gita. And just by remembering those verses, 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was able to find solace in his heart. So that is one effect Prabhupada explains when we read Shastra. That whenever we have any mental trouble, problem, anxiety, distress, we read Bhagavatam, we read Bhagavad Gita, he will give us solace, he will give us that nice peace. Just like, a little kid, he's feeling distress, he comes, hugs his mother gives him a hug, pats him on the back. And what is the feeling of the child? The child immediately forgets all of his distress and he feels, safe at home. Okay, I am protected. My mother is here, and he feels great solace in the hands of his mother. So that is effect number one, Prabhupada says, when we read Shastra. We will get solace from whatever mental anxiety